Welcome everyone to our December Council meeting, and I'll ask everyone to be upstanding for our opening prayer. Almighty God, we ask that you be present at this meeting to assist us in our service to the community through local government. We pray that our decisions will be wise and taken with goodwill and clear conscience. Amen. Item 2 is Councillor and Officer presence at the meeting. We have all councillors. We have our Chief Executive Officer, Director of Infrastructure and Environment, Director of Community and Planning and Director of Corporate and Organisational Development. Apologies and granting of leave. Nothing. Disclosures of conflict of interest. Any conflicts? No conflicts. 5's confirmation of minutes from the ordinary council meeting held on the 27th of November 2024. Someone like to move those minutes? Councillor Tolsha. Going to move those minutes in a seconder. Councillor Wortman. We'll put that. All those in favour? Carried. Petitions and joint letters? Nil. Public question time? Questions?
Mr Mayor, we did actually receive 2 public question time submissions. In accordance with our governance rules, the 2 submitters are not present at the meeting today, so those questions will be dealt with outside of this meeting.
Thank you. So item 8 is informal meeting of councillors, which is the swearing-in ceremony on the 13th of November and workshop on the 20th of November and the 27th of November. Any questions or clarification on that at all? Someone like to move a motion in regard to the informal meeting of councillors? Councillor Anderson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation be noted.
Thanks, Councillor Anderson. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pittman. I don't think anyone will need to speak to that. We'll put the motion. All those in favour? And against? Carried. 9.1 is action sheet reports. Take it as read. Any questions or clarification on the action sheet report? No. We have the recommendation in front of us. Would someone like to move a motion? Councillor Wortman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that the report be noted.
Thanks, Councillor Wortman. And a seconder? Councillor Tolsha. Again, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Mayor, Deputy Mayor and Councillor allowance, and we'll call on our Director of Corporate and Organisational Development.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the purpose of this report is to present the updated base allowances payable to the Mayor and Deputy Mayor from the 18th of December 2024. This amount is set through a determination of the Victorian Independent Remuneration Tribunal, and the increase is in line with the recommendation from that tribunal. And the recommendation is that the Mayor and Deputy Mayor allowances be set at the adjusted levels and at the Mayor rate of $86,722 per annum, the Deputy Mayor of $43,360, and that the allowances, if approved, are backdated to the date that they took effect.
Any questions or clarification on that report? Nothing. Would someone someone like to move a motion? Councillor Anderson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation as presented.
Thanks, Councillor Anderson. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Wortman. Councillor Anderson, would you like to speak to that at
No,
all?
thank you.
Councillor Wortman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor.
Leave the microphone on, I think.
As the report says, the independent tribunal has assessed this, and look, from a personal view, I don't think people realise how hard the mayor works and the deputy mayor. It's a very demanding job, and I fully support this increase. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Wortman. Are there any other, anyone else like to speak against the motion or for the motion? Put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. (9.3) Quarterly performance graphs. Is there anything the Director would like to point out there, or they're pretty self-explanatory? Any questions or clarification on those reporting graphs? No? So would someone like to move a motion? Councillor Wortman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that the report be noted.
Thanks, Councillor Wortman. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pittman. Councillor Wortman. Councillor Pittman. No. Anyone else like to speak to that at all? Well, put the motion. All those in favour? None against? Carried. 9.4, advocacy position on Albury-Wodonga Albury-Wodonga Hospital, I should say, and I'll call on our CEO.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Councillors, the purpose of this report is to confirm the Council's commitment to its advocacy position on the Albury-Wodonga Hospital. As you may be aware, maybe our two new councillors not so much, the three shires of Indigo, Alpine and Towong met on the 13th of August and affirmed or confirmed their united advocacy in terms of the new Albury-Wodonga Hospital, and particularly in relation to the need for that to be a greenfield site, and looking at the clinical services plan that was prepared and the adequacy of the infrastructure proposed, and that would fall well short if that was on the brownfield site that they're looking to redevelop. In more recent times, myself and Councillor Anderson, as Council's delegate, attended a meeting of New South Wales and Victorian councils on the 2nd of December. Following the New South Wales local government elections, Albury City has certainly had a change of view in terms of their position on the new Albury-Wodonga Hospital, and are now aligned with the position of Wodonga and Indigo, Alpine and Towong, that being that they believe a greenfield site would be more appropriate to meet the needs of the catchment of around 300,000 residents. So the purpose of this meeting is effectively to reaffirm our Council's support for a greenfield site. It's also to realign Council's position to be consistent in all respects with the latest position of both Albury and Wodonga councils and others throughout the region, and also to support the call for the current health region to be split into two local health service networks, with Albury-Wodonga Health being the lead for the local health service network for our region. At this time, there appears to be a view with the state that the head of the region should be at Shepparton, and based on feedback from Albury-Wodonga Health executives, there's a strong view that that would not serve our communities well. The report before you is quite extensive, and I'd like to acknowledge Trevor Ireno over at Indigo, who has played a key role in putting this paper together, And you'll see that on page 20 of the report, there's 20 and 21, there's a number of items there as far as the recommendation for your resolution today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions or clarification on that report? It's very detailed, so I can see it covers most things. If there's no questions, we have the recommendation in front of us. Would someone like to move a motion? Councillor Anderson. Move that.
Oh, sorry, Mr Mayor. Yes, I'd like to move the recommendation as presented.
Thank
I
you.
won't be reading it.
No, that's a little bit too long to read. Seconder, Councillor Wortman. Councillor Anderson, would you like to speak to that motion?
Thanks, Mr. No, that's right. Thanks, Mr Mayor. Apologies about that. It is a very extensive report, and I encourage our residents to read it because we're doing this for them. I did want to note, though, most importantly, we are just one council along with up to 12 shire councils from both sides of the border, and 200 local doctors from the Border Medical Association are united in requesting the federal intervention. Unfortunately, the Vic and state governments just aren't listening to us at this stage. I have done an extensive report as well on our meeting. We spoke about our 3 hospitals, and it is our main, what we normally would do, working with our hospitals within the council. But as a council, this advocacy is so important. Our residents are concerned with what's happening at the Albury-Wodonga Health right now and into the future, and it's looking pretty bleak. We need solutions to address the pressing and growing healthcare needs of our whole region and down the river. So it's great to see us all working together to this end. Thank you.
Councillor Wortman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, totally agree with Councillor Anderson's views. This is such an important issue for our community and all the communities in the catchment of the Albury-Wodonga Health. I'm very pleased in the motion that we're considering changes to the Hume region be split into 2 regions. I don't agree, as the motion says, we don't agree with that because it's such a big catchment, Albury-Wodonga Health, and to deal with health services nearly on the edge of Melbourne and for our communities like here in Corryong, Walwa and Toolangatta, we're just so far away from Shepparton and or the Golden Valley. So I'm really pleased that that's in the motion, and yeah, it's so important to our communities. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Wortman. Would anyone else like to speak against the motion or for the motion? No. I'd just probably like to add that, this is one of the most important things that we'll get to advocate for. A hospital, we're so reliant for any major issues that we have. We're very lucky that we have hospitals in our towns of Walwa, Toolangatta and Corryong, but once we get to more serious things, Albury-Wodonga Health is where we head for, and it's vitally important that we get the result that we need for the community to have a healthcare system that is what's required into the future, not just for now. So. With that all being said, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? None against. Carried. It's a long way down.
Just,
9.5, CEO leave request.
Mr Mayor, I actually have a material conflict of interest in this, so I will
As you
depart.
may be the CEO.
As I might be the CEO, hopefully, a bit longer.
And Mr Mayor, I'll have a material conflict with this item as well, so I'll need to exit.
Right, we're clearing the room. So, thank you. We have a leave request for the Chief Executive Officer for annual leave for the period of Monday the 30th of December 2024 to Friday the 3rd of January 2025, inclusive. And the Chief Executive Officer has recommended that Mr Mark Florence, Director of Community and Planning, be appointed to the role of Acting Chief Executive Officer for the period Monday the 30th of December 2024 to Friday the 3rd of January 2025. Hard to believe that we've got to 2025 already. Are there any questions or clarification on any of that? It's always a tricky time over the Christmas, New Year break, but this is allowing us to have good coverage in the event that we have some unforeseen circumstances occur. We will have people in the roles to carry out whatever's needs to happen. So if there's no questions, would someone like to move a motion in regards to the CEO leave request? Councillor Pittman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I would like to move that the Chief Executive's request for annual leave be approved on point 1, and also on point 2 that the appointment of Mr Mark Florence as Director of Community and Planning into the acting position of Chief Executive Officer during the CEO's absence.
Thanks, Councillor Pittman. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tolsha. Anyone like to speak to that motion at all?
Only just to say that, you know, obviously we've got some pretty hard-working people in the council, and it's really important that they get some time out to spend with their family.
Yep. Thanks, Councillor Pittman. Councillor Tolsha.
I'd just like to say, as a new councillor, that the CEO and the team, very well experienced, very high quality, and Mark is a good fit for that role, for that period.
Yep. Thanks, Councillor Tolsha. Anyone else like to speak to the motion? Against it? We'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. None against. We might even bring some back. I think you get to have some leave.
Excellent.
Beautiful. 10's community wellbeing and 10.1 recreation and community development. So I'll call out our Director of Community and Planning.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Purpose of this report is to provide an update on the activities of the recreation unit and also Tallangatta Neighbourhood House. You can see that the report appendix details a whole range of different activities that have taken place. Particularly like to focus on the Tallangatta Neighbourhood House, that its range of activities is quite extensive. Seems to be growing all the time. The membership, or sorry, not so much the membership, but the reach of the neighbourhood house to the members of the community is just growing all the time. And also in the recreation space, a lot of good work being achieved with grant success and being able to upgrade a number of facilities, Rowan Park at Tallangatta being one, and Cudgewar Rec Reserve with lighting projects, and we'll be moving next year on Tallandoon and Bullio Bulio's just gone to tender, so we'll see some progress there as well. And the recommendation is that the report be noted.
Thank you very much. Any questions or clarification on that report? Councillor Wortman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Not so much a question, just congratulations on the team. There's so much good work going on in this space. I think the other day when we met at Bethanga and we saw the detailed plans that are going on there, and just goes to show the great work that's going on in that part of our organisation. Thank you.
Any, Councillor Tolsha?
Just want to reiterate what Councillor Wortman said. The amount of work involved in doing all those is unbelievable. Again, new councillor coming in to get an idea of what's happening around the area is really, really good for the community. That's about all.
Thanks, Councillor Tolsha. If there's nothing further, would someone like to move a motion? Councillor Tolsha.
Would the report be noted?
Thanks, Councillor Tolsha. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pittman. Anything else to add, Councillor Tolsha? No. Anyone else like to speak to the motion or against the motion? We'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Emergency management update. And we'll call on our Director of Community and Planning.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on emergency management unit activities. Emergency management success is really underpinned by the work that's done behind the scenes with a whole range of different agencies. The report details the collaborations that are taking place within the Shire, but also outside the Shire, to ensure that all aspects of emergency management are being covered, and also the work that's being done with community members who are still experiencing impacts of either bushfire or flood over the recent years. So the report is recommended for noting.
Thank you very much. Any questions or clarification?
Yeah, I'd just like to say
Pittman, yep.
that the report as presented to us at the last planning meeting was very extensive by Mr Erickson. I was most impressed with the content and particularly his involvement and to the level at which he does that. So, yeah, really good job.
Thanks, Councillor Pittman. Do I have anyone other questions? Or
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, the report last week was really good. The trailer and the options with that going forward, just for the community, for us to deliver stuff, it's a really, really big bonus to the community.
Any further questions? Councillor Wortman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Totally agree with my fellow councillors, Councillor Pittman and Councillor Tolsha. Look, we've come ahead in leaps and bounds in this space, I can tell you, and Sven Erickson doing a great job. I just look at these community plans, you know, individual community plans. Councillor Anderson's had a lot to do with that. Look, it's just great for our communities in preparation of if an emergency does occur. And again, the emergency trailers are fantastic, and I see there we've purchased some generators that can be mobilised very quickly, which is fantastic too. So, no, thank you.
If there's nothing further, we'll ask for someone to move a motion. Councillor Anderson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move that the report be noted.
Thanks, Councillor Anderson. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pittman. Councillor Anderson, would you like to speak to that at all?
Just on the trailer. Fine. Just on the trailers, they are absolutely fabulous, and if we're out and about with them and the community's out I encourage you to have a look. They're really good, and I just feel that we'll be so much better prepared and able to help quickly with these trailers as well. So good on them. Excellent work, and those reports were amazing the other week. So thank you for all that. It makes us feel a little bit more confident, I think, as councillors. Thank you.
Councillor Pittman, anything to add? Anyone else like to speak to the motion? Against it? I noticed the number of inspections that are done on properties for fire preparedness and stuff. You know, I thought it'd be 10 or 20, but it's in the hundreds. So, you know, I think that's, you know, should give the community a little bit of a better feel, knowing that that sort of thing is happening, and how well that we should be prepared for something moving forward. If there's nothing further, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? None against? Carried. 10.3, Early Years and Maternal Child Health Report. Again, we'll call on our Director of Community and Planning.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just note at the start that councillors have been provided with an edited version of the report in the agenda, and also will be reflected in the minutes. The purpose of this report is to provide an update on the activities of the Early Years Unit, a really essential part of council services. Some would argue the most important thing that council does in terms of providing really good start for families and young people. And the report identifies a range of activities from a child-based perspective in what happens in the actual kindergartens and childcare, and also highlights the work that our staff does with other agencies as well, to have trying to have a joined up integrated approach. So the report is there for noting.
Thank you very much. Any questions or clarification on that report?
No, Mr Mayor, I would like to comment though that I did have an opportunity while getting a coffee this morning to speak to a couple of the staff from the early child people, and was very impressed with the amount of commitment they have to their role. It's very tricky with some of the issues they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis, and I have to say I think we're lucky to have such committed staff members.
Yep. Thank you. Councillor Wortman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Just a question to our Director of Community and Planning. Without notice, I just look at the officer's view, and it just talks about with minimal private sector operators offering these services in the municipality, the community are in a critical need of these services. I know this is a question without notice, but other municipalities have private operators. Is it just because of our remoteness that's...
Yeah, thank you for the question, Councillor. Yes, I think just the scale and the population base of Towong makes it a challenge for any private operator to operate a viable business, and so therefore council, a decision in the past has been to fill that void, and as the officer has recommended there, the services that are provided by council are just absolutely critical and can't be done without.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions? We have a recommendation in front of us. Someone like to move a motion? Councillor Pittman.
Mr Mayor, I'd like to recommend that the report be noted.
Thank you. We've got a seconder, Councillor Tolsha. Councillor Pittman, would you like to speak to that motion at all?
No, I need to reiterate what other councillors have said in relation to, you know, the extent of the work required in this area and the commitment of the people who are conducting that work. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Pittman. Do I have a Councillor Tolsha? Anything? No. Anyone else like to speak to the motion or against it? I think it's it's worth adding. A lot of people, and I would assume, and I would have been one of them, thinking that if we provided maternal and child health, kindergarten and childcare, that was sort of the extent of those roles. But when you read the report, there's so much more to it than that. You know, working with families that have, you know, doing it a little bit tough or things like that. You know, so the staff are working with those vulnerable people all the time to try and have a better outcome for them and their kids for the future. And I think that's just a great thing that we can be part of as a council, to be overseeing that sort of stuff happens. So again, with what all the other councillors have said, thanks very much to all the staff that go a little above and beyond to make that sort of stuff happen. So thank you. If there's nothing further, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. 11's asset management and 11.1's Walworth CFA shed, and I'll call on our Director of Infrastructure and Environment.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The report is provided to support a decision of Council towards a construction contract for a new CFA shed in Walworth. The Walworth Recovery Centre has seen recent investments in improving the functionality of the site for staging grounds for emergency services during major incidents. The option to consolidate the local CFA brigade on the same site has been identified as a further investment in community resilience. The construction of a new brigade shed has been a long-standing need for the Walworth CFA. The location of the rec reserve on one of the tennis courts will provide drive-through functionality and sufficient storage for the brigade's equipment. The location near the new amenities block will avoid the need and cost to have wet areas in the new building. Although one tennis court will be lost, there remains the space to provide 3 tennis courts in the event that a tennis club becomes active and the player surfaces are upgraded. The option to locate the CFA shed at the Rec Reserve was identified as part of the community engagement on design and location of the amenities block. Originally, a location was proposed which was constrained by underground assets and traffic flow challenges. Some concerns were raised with stakeholders. The project manager met with some of those concerns and walked through the constraints, including the priority of maintaining the oval as available for playing. While some criticism of the location remains, a better workable solution has not been identified. Recommendation is as presented, councillors.
Thank you very much. Any questions or clarification on the report? We have a recommendation in front of us. Someone like to move a motion? Councillor Wortman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation as presented.
Thanks, Councillor Wortman. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pittman. Councillor Wortman, would you like to speak to that motion?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. There's a long history to this project. After the bushfires in 2019-20, we all realised that the Walworth Fire Station was not adequate, and but speaking to CFA representatives in Region 24, the Walworth Fire Station wasn't programmed to be upgraded for many, many years. So this is a big commitment by the Shire to build this shed, but it all ties in with the Rec Reserve upgrade and the building that's down there, and it's a great outcome because we utilise facilities that have been just recently built, and with the CFA being homed there, it's going to be great for the community and great for the Shire. So I really support this project.
Thanks, Councillor Wortman. Councillor Pittman, you...
I'd just like to support Councillor Wortman's comments and agree wholeheartedly that this is well and truly due for construction. Yep.
Anyone else like to speak to the motion, against the motion? We'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. (12) is land use planning, and 12.1 is Omeo Highway Minimita Planning Application 2024-011. And I'll call on our Director of Community and Planning.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. So the report identifies a planning application to secure a liquor licence at the Meta store, and also to regulise some building works that require permit as well. The report is here because there were some objections received. After considering those objections and looking to address the matters that were raised, on balance it was felt that the application be supported, and hence the recommendation for approval, subject to various conditions being applied. On balance, it's a positive outcome for the Mita community. It provides another option in terms of servicing the community, but also visitation, which is something that is important for the Mita Valley. So the recommendation is as presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just have one minor edit to number 13.
So,
Sorry, Councillor, just one minor edit to point 13 of the recommendation, that it should read, this permit as it relates to use will expire if the use does not start within, as opposed to doesn't not start.
get rid of the not.
Yeah. Does not.
Does not.
Yep.
Any questions or clarification on that report? Nope. We have a recommendation in front of us. Would someone like to move motion? Councillor Anderson.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the motion as the recommendation as presented, with that adjustment on number 13 from doesn't to does. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Anderson, do I have a seconder? Councillor Wortman. Councillor Anderson, would you like to speak to the motion at all?
No, thank you.
Councillor Wortman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Thanks, Councillor. I'd just like to commend the planning officer's report. It's extensive. We've had some objections, and I think they've been clarified very well in the report. And like I say, I thank the officer. And as our director had pointed out, it's I think it offers another alternative in the town and encourages tourism to the town. And as we know, the hotel operates on limited hours, and so this is another alternative for people to access alcohol at different times of the day. Yep. So thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Wortman. Would anyone, Councillor Tolsha?
I would just like to say that I think in a small town, extra options and for a small business is a great way to keep it viable. I think with its proximity to the local hotel, some of the objections, in my mind, are similar to what's already happening. I think it's going to be great for the little community and an option for all tourism when they come through.
Thanks, Councillor Tolsha. Anyone else like to speak to the motion or against the motion? We'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. 12.2 is Land Use Planning Report, and I'll call on our Director of Community and Planning.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of the report is to provide Council with an update on the performance of the land use planning unit over the last period of time. You will note that the performance in processing planning permits has dropped compared to this time last year, but that has had a bounce back in November following further work on the green light system, which is a project in progress. It's important to note also that whilst the number of planning permits is not significant, around about 23 active permits at the moment, Councillor would see that the level of inquiry for a month, is 320 inquiries across a whole range of different categories in the planning unit. So there is a lot of interest in the land use planning space, and our staff are managing that well, albeit a need to keep the performance levels up to that 80-85% level. Thank you. The report is there as noted.
Thank you very much. Any questions or clarification? I just have a question. I note that the number of applications were down, but would I be right in an assumption that with the level of planning permits for development in particular, the workload would still be very high because they're quite large planning applications? Is that fair?
Thanks, Mr Mayor, for the question. Yeah, you're quite correct that whilst on a numerical basis it's quite low, some of the ones that are in there are actually quite significant in terms of an item that's coming, the one that was just before around the Meta store. They do take a lot of time and a lot of detail to get through, so that does have an impact.
Thank you. Any further questions of Councillor Wortman?
Yeah, thanks, Mr Mayor. I just note in the report about the Green Light project, we all know that planning is a complex area, and look, anything that makes it more easier for applicants to see how their approval or their permit is progressing, because we do cop criticism at times, and I think this is a great project, and I think it's going to be great for council and for our ratepayers, and I commend. It's a great initiative.
Thank you. Any further questions or clarification? Have the recommendation in front of us. Would someone like to move the motion? Councillor Tolsha.
Would the report be noted?
Thanks, Councillor Tolsha. Seconder. Councillor Pittman. Councillor Tolsha, anything to add? Councillor Pittman. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion? We'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. 13 is environmental sustainability and the Corryong landfill cell capping tender evaluation, and I'll call on our Director of Infrastructure and Environment.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. The purpose of the report is to seek approval to appoint a recommended contractor to construct an engineered geomembrane cap and associated works over the existing 2 waste cells at the Corryong Resource Recovery Centre. The report outlines the tender process followed for the procurement of a suitable contractor to undertake the capping works. The Corryong landfill site is located at 273 Sugarloaf Road. Following the bushfires in 2020, which saw the operational cell significantly damaged, and changes in Victorian legislation, the viability of operating a municipal landfill at the site was deemed uneconomical. To this end, Council has decided to close the site to further filling, and focus purely on running the site as a resource recovery centre. The project involves the construction of an engineered cap over cell 1 and 2, Only 2 formal tender submissions were received. For the proposed cap liner, the original specifications called for a geosynthetic clay liner with no cushioning geotextile and 500ml of earth fill over the top. During the process of gaining EPA approval for the capping design, the EPA requested the adoption of a geomembrane liner due to concerns that the less effective GCL liner would allow too much rainwater to enter the cell, contributing to the bathtub effect. Council has explored whether any cost savings would be gained if Council were able to adopt a geosynthetic clay liner, which is the original GCL liner. And both tenderers advised have since confirmed that the cost savings would not warrant revisiting the design with the EPA, and suggesting the best case is that cost impact would be neutral. In view of these being nominal savings and expected reluctance by EPA to change its position given its past stance, it is recommended not to challenge the EPA direct further and move forward and ratify appointment of preferred tenderers. The recommendation is as presented. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any questions or clarification on the landfill cell capping? Councillor
Thank you,
Pittman.
Mr Mayor. Look, I know there's been some community comment around this issue, and I think it's probably important for us that we communicate what we're doing pretty clearly, maybe through a newspaper article or something like that, so that people understand the full implications of what we had to deal with in making this decision.
Thanks, Councillor Pittman. Do we have any other questions or clarification? Nope. We have a recommendation in front of us. Would someone like to move motion? Councillor Pittman. Do I have a... Yeah, well, you better move something. Yep. Before I move.
Mr Mayor, yes, I'd like to recommend that Council award the contract as outlined in point 1, and that the Chief Executive Officer also, as in point 2, recommended they have the power to seal the contract, and also as in point 3, that the Chief Executive Officer be authorised to approve the contract variations up to the total value of the project budget.
Thanks, Councillor Pittman. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tolsha. Councillor Pittman, would you like to speak to that at all?
Nothing further, thank you, Mr Mayor.
Councillor Tolsha? No. Anyone else like to speak to the motion or against the motion? I think it shows me that Council made the right decision in closing the landfill when we have a look at the change in EPA guidelines just for capping, which we were going to have to do anyway when those cells were full. It just got to the stage where it was not feasible for a small council to try and run a landfill because of the moving of the goalposts from what used to have to happen to run a landfill to what has to happen today. They're chalk and cheese, they're nothing like what it used to be. So I think this proves, with the cost of just to cap a landfill, that we've made the right decision. If there's nothing further, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? None against? Carried. Economic and Tourism Development. There's no report to present at this meeting. Councillor reports. 15.1's Greenfield Hospital Advocacy Meeting Report. Councillor Anderson, would you like to speak to that at all?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I will just briefly. Thank you, Mr Mayor. All the councillors met, and we are strongly in favour of the Greenfield Hospital site, and that's following the recommendation by the Board of Medical Association. they represent the healthcare professionals and they've outlined the clinical risk to patients and the significant challenges of recruiting, training and retaining health workers under the current conditions. And just briefly, I just want to touch on the health workers and what they're going through as well, and we fully support them. And looking out for our residents, because we're all hearing some pretty sad stories. So I just wanted to note those couple of things in my report. That was all. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Anderson. Councillor Wortman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Look, I'd just like to commend Councillor Anderson on the report. It's very detailed, excellent, and we know how passionate she is about this subject.
Sorry about that.
No, I just noting one. I think there's a typo there with our CEO's name. But anyway,
Oh, did I?
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Apologies.
That's okay. But no,
I did too.
well done, well done, Councillor Anderson.
If there's nothing further, someone like to move the report be noted, the council report be noted? And I wonder, does Councillor Anderson move that,
She can.
or does anyone?
She can do
Would you like to
Okay.
move?
I'll
Councillor
make the
Anderson?
motion. The report be noted. Thank you.
And do I have a seconder? Councillor Tolsha. And you've already spoken to that. Councillor Tolsha.
I'd just like to say as well, well done, Denise. I think, oh, sorry, councillor. Great report. With your background, you're the perfect person to push the ideas of this council forward, and I think you're doing a great job.
Thanks, Councillor Tolsha. If there's nothing further, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. I think we have a second. Baringa Peninsula Community Network Report, Councillor Wortman. Would you like to speak to that, Councillor Wortman?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. The bar's been set a bit high. Look, I just submitted this. I just wanted to let, at the Baringa Peninsula markets, we had a bit of a feedback session from people who attended, and I just wanted to let councillors know this is some of the feedback that was received over on the peninsula, and yeah, I'll just present the report.
Thanks, Councillor Wortman. Any questions or clarification? Councillor Wortman, would you like to move that report? No. Councillor Wortman move his report on the Baringa Peninsula. And do I have a seconder? Councillor Anderson. Anything else to add, Councillor Wortman? Councillor Anderson?
Oh, well, thank you. This is a great group and a great way to keep communication between council and the peninsula. And feedback is always welcome because, you know, we think we hear a lot, but once you get it down on paper, it's good to know what people are hoping to get in their area.
Yep.
Thank you.
Councillor Tolsha?
I know Councillor Wortman said the bar has been set very high by Councillor Anderson. I'm just glad my report didn't make the timeline, because I might have to go back and edit mine.
Thanks, Councillor Tolsha. If there's no further questions, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? Whoops, wrong spot. Carried. Item 16, urgent business. Do we have any urgent business? Councillor Tolsha.
I have one. A bit of background. Councillor Wortman has been appointed as a council representative for the Murray-Darling Association, consecutive for the last 12, 16 years, since 2008. The Murray-Darling Association provides representation of local government and communities at state and federal level in the management of basin resources by providing information, facilitating debate and seeking to influence government policy. Councillor Wortman luckily has been approached by the Murray-Darling Basin Association to be considered as a role of chair for that group, which is a great opportunity for Councillor Wortman to represent council, a leadership level within the association. So I'd just like to say congratulations for them even thinking of you and throwing that confidence back at you, and I just have a recommendation that council support the nomination of Councillor Wortman to the role of chair of the Murray-Darling Basin Association.
So we actually need Councillor Tolsha a motion to admit that into urgent business.
Right.
So if you want to move that one first, and then we'll get a seconder for that, we'll move it into urgent business, and then we'll...
So my motion is for the Murray-Darling Association chair nomination be put into the
Urgent business.
urgent business.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pittman. We'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. And...
Do I have to repeat?
No.
Go on, make me.
So we're now happy with... Are there any questions or clarification on that report that we've just heard from Councillor Tolsha?
Through you, Mr Mayor, I'd just like to say that I think it speaks volumes to Councillor Wortman's character and his leadership abilities to be tapped on the shoulder for this role.
Thanks, Councillor Pittman. If there's no more questions, we'll ask for someone to move the motion. Councillor Tolsha, and a seconder, Councillor Pittman. Either like to speak to that at all? Spoken enough?
I've said enough.
We'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Congratulations. Now you've just got to get through the next step.
The nomination.
17's committee minutes. 17.1 OH&S committee meeting minutes. Did I miss one? Oh, another urgent business. Sorry. Urgent business. So again, someone will need to move.
We'll just need an introduction of what the item
Yep.
is.
Yep.
One sentence.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, there is another matter of urgent business which relates to the potential adoption of the Bellbridge Development Plan, land adjacent to Hillcrest Avenue.
Thank you. Would someone like to move that we submit that as urgent business? Councillor Wortman. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tolsha. We'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried. Now.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, this is quite a significant step in an issue that has been long-standing for council, as I understand it, which is the preparation of a development plan to potentially subdivide land in Bellbridge to create a 90-lot subdivision, which will, if approved and the rest of the process goes well, will essentially double the size of Bellbridge and create enormous opportunities for that township in terms of population, but also community facilities, connection to Albury-Wodonga. So the land is governed by a development plan overlay, hence triggering the need for council to adopt a development plan. The proposed development plan has been through significant work by the applicant and by council officers. It covers, the purpose of a development plan is to set the parameters, I suppose, around a whole range of different issues relating to the land, and that includes stormwater drainage, consideration of the topography of the land, road access, public open space, general amenity, native vegetation, etc. You'll note in the report that those issues and various clauses under the Planning and Environment Act well addressed by the officer, and the recommendation is for that development plan to be adopted, noting a couple of notations as part of that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Questions or clarification on that report? Nothing. We've got the recommendation. Would someone like to move a motion? Councillor Wortman.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. I'd like to move the recommendation as presented.
Thanks, Councillor Wortman. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tolsha. Councillor Wortman, would you like to speak to that motion?
Thanks, Mr Mayor. As our director pointed out, this has been a long-term project, and look, it's very exciting. It's exciting for the Shire, and especially for the communities on the peninsula, and especially the Bellbridge community. Just a bit of history. This has been planned for a long time, but because the sewage and water was requiring an upgrade in the township, and that happened last year. It was completed last year by earlier this year, sorry. And I was lucky enough to attend the opening of with North East Water, and it's a state of the art facility, and that allowed the developers to start this development plan, or go ahead with the development plan, and it's, like I say, very exciting, and the township was always planned to grow, but now it's on the point of happening, so I'm extremely pleased. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Wortman. Councillor Tolsha, okay.
I'd just like to say anything that promotes growth within our council, Shire area is really great for the community, and we're just got to make sure that our infrastructure keeps up with that growth as well. So we've got to do a bit of planning to make sure that all communities get what they deserve.
Thanks, Councillor Tolsha. Would anyone else like to speak to the motion or against the motion? No, we'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. Now we've 17.1 OH&S Committee meeting minutes. I'll call on our Director of Corporate and Organisational Development.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. So the purpose of this report is to confirm the minutes of the Occupational Health and Safety Committee meeting. The minutes were circulated prior to the meeting due to the confidential nature of those minutes, and the recommendation is that the unconfirmed minutes be noted.
Thank you very much. Any questions or clarification on that, councillors? No. Would have a recommendation. Would someone like to move motion? Councillor Tolsha.
Motion that report be noted.
Thanks, Councillor Tolsha. Or do we have to,
Just
the unconfirmed minutes of the,
recommendation as presented.
yeah,
All right, I'll change mine. That the unconfirmed minutes of the Occupational Health and Safety Committee meeting held on the 21st of November 2024 be noted.
thanks, Councillor Tolsha. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Pittman. Councillor Tolsha, would you like to speak to the motion at all?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Councillor Pittman. Anyone else like to speak to the motion or against the motion? We'll put the motion. All those in favour? Carried. We don't have any policies for review or adoption. Sealing of documents is nil and confidential.
Yes,
We do have confidential. Would someone like to move that we close the meeting to the public and move into confidential? Councillor Pittman.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yes, I'd like to move that we close the meeting to the public so we can discuss the confidential items.
Thanks, Councillor Pittman. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Tolsha. All those in favour? Carried. We'll
Councillor Pittman and Councillor Whitehead had a conflict with some confidential items and had to leave the room. We've had our discussion, and out of that we have a motion. We have a motion? Yep.
I'd like to move that the confidential report be noted and we seek a meeting with the CNC.
And do we have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Wortman. Anyone want to speak? No?
Thank you.
All good. So now we'll get back our two councillors.
We've got to vote.
Oh, and we have to vote first, sorry. And all in favour? Now we get back our two councillors.
So we're going to move to go in, or
We're back in.
Over to you, Mr Mayor.
Right, so we'll close the meeting. Welcome back, and thanks for everyone for the day. Close the meeting.